Okay, so welcome to our very first lesson of Reclaiming Your Life. This is based on Yoel Turjman's book, The Bridge, the Gesher. It's in Hebrew, but my wife Yocheved translated it to English, and we're now teaching it to you guys. And this is an amazing book full of the secrets of Kabbalah and Chassidut, and embedded in there is the key, according to the Jewish philosophy, how to live a life of good health and joy. Something that everybody wants. And so we're teaching this book for the very first time, and it's going to be taught in 16 different sections. Each week we'll take another section and embrace it, understand it, integrate it, and then move on. So you'll see a continuum between one week and another. The actual process of learning this is a fascinating journey into the depths of human soul. Through it we gain an insight into the tools that we can manage the various forces within us that make up the human experience. It gives us consciousness of channeling the energy into the right places. It liberates us from the barriers, explosive encounters, from stress and from worry. It gives us a feeling of inner harmony and calm and peace, and explores all the issues that face all of us. And it offers ways to solve them in a very simple way that needs just a little bit of effort. It cleanses the lens of life and gives us the ability to look at it from the right perspective, from the healthy perspective, from the Torah perspective. If I can give you an example, I mean, I've in the last 8 years of meeting Yoel Turjman, who's an amazing mentor, brother, artist, friend. I've brought many hundreds of people to him for counseling, for advice. And it's amazing that no matter what kind of people I brought, whether they were young or old, religious, non-religious, married, single, connected to Israel or not, it's amazing that every single one of them came out of that meeting with clarity. And not only clarity, a sense of joy and anticipation about what their life is about to unfold. It's remarkable. And I saw this time after time, and I said to you, you've got to write this down in the book, because how many times can you meet somebody? You know, you're a single person, and you can only meet a certain number of people, and people come to him from all over the world to meet him. And I said, if you write a book, then you can share that with everybody, and that's exactly what he's done, and that's what this book, The Gesher, is. And just to give you an idea of the power of this, we had the privilege of introducing this book to a commander in the 669 Find and Rescue division of the IDF, who was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. And he claims that after many years of this, meeting Yoel, meditating on the paintings, one of which is behind me here, and reading the book gave him the power, empowered him to release himself from that traumatic stress syndrome, which is remarkable. And I maintain that, you know, we've gone through this horrendous experience of the 7th of October. I think well over half of Israel is suffering from some form of stress syndrome. And so this book is needed more than it's ever needed before, and I really encourage all those who have the ability to learn it to do so and to integrate it, and our intention and hope is that those that do graduate from this course will eventually be able to give their own lessons and consultation, and that will be a source of income for them too. So basically we're going to go through the course, go through the book, and at the end of the book I'll be giving some support and help in terms of how to market this and to share it with the world. So let's have a start. Let's start with the introduction. And if I was to ask you, we have a painting behind us here. It's called One Day. And if I was to ask you, how would you rate that painting? What would you give it out of 10? If you were an art critic, what would you give it? Have a go.
Rating Beta as an art critic, just to rate out good, it's great, it's
yeah.
It's great.
It's great. Okay.
It's great.
If I was to ask
It's
you,
got color, it's got balance. It's
Okay. If I was to ask you, how would you rate your life? How would you score your life out of 10, say, for example? Would you score it 10 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 7 out of 10? What would you give it? The third question I want to ask you, I want you to think about that, and you don't have to answer me now, but just think about that. The third question I want to ask you is, if you had to score God's world, what score would you give it? And whilst you deliberate all of that, I'll ask you a fourth question, and that is, would you like to know what God thinks about his world? And the answer is that this is what he says in Genesis, in Bereshit. At the end of the 6 days of creation, God said, God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. So according to God's definition of his assessment of the world, it's very good. So I ask you, from what perspective is it very good? In what perspective is this world very good? I can bring you a number of examples of this world being not good at all. So how do we understand this idea that God's saying that it is very good? To do that, let's start with the first two words of the Torah, Bereshit bara. Bereshit bara, in the beginning God created, right? That's our standard thing. But bara, the root of bara is not only to create, but it's also from briut, from the word health. In other words, in the beginning there was health. And if you don't have health, then you don't have a vessel to be able to hold the Torah, which was the main reason for creating the world. So the main thing that we have to pay attention to when we're looking at the world is this idea of health. And if I was to tell you, what is health? Refuah, healing. What is healing? The first statement that comes to my mind is refuat nefesh, refuat guf. Healing of the mind, healing of the body. And notice that they're two different things, but the healing of the mind comes before healing of the body. And I want to just draw your attention. We're talking about creation, and this is, by the way, Yoel's book on Bereshit, which is a beautiful book with some beautiful paintings, each one for a different parasha. And in creation, we see that God creates the world, and how does he create it? He could have created the world in one day, but he decides to create it in, please take a seat. He decides to create it in 7 days. Why 7 days? Because everything has a process, and the process, if you read the Alshech on Bereshit, you'll see it's amazing. What happens is that God creates firstly the spiritual version of the world, and then gradually he creates a more physical version, until we get to our world here. So everything in creation starts with a thought, and then God spoke, and then it comes down into reality, and that's how it happens. That's why when we talk about healing or health, we always have to bear in mind healing the mind in order to heal the body. The biggest mistake of modern medicine is to differentiate the two and say the body has nothing to do with the mind, but they are interlinked. And if you look at the Rambam, wrote a letter some 2,000 years ago, I think, the Rambam, He wrote a letter to the Sultan, and he said, because the mental activities bring great change to the body, and a doctor must observe the mental movement, in other words, the thoughts of a patient, because this is the first step to heal the sick. Now, I want to tell you one of the most incredible secrets to this book, and there are many secrets, but this is a really big one, so I want to emphasize it, that health depends on one thing: regeneration. Regeneration is the key. If I had to pick one word that really emphasizes health, it's regeneration, both physically and mentally. Let's have a look at that. Physically, we can see that the main factor responsible for disease is when nerve cells or tissues are not regenerating in the required way, and cells become sometimes cancerous. Mentally, from a mental point of view, mental health is, in other words, most emotional difficulties and mental illnesses stem from the fact that the mind has not been able to renew itself. It is stuck into some sort of past memory cycle that locks you into that mental difficulty. So if we can learn to shake off the sediments of the past and use the forces given us by heaven, by Hashem, to renew ourselves, we can move forward with vigor and maintain sanity and mental health. And this book enables us to detach ourselves from the emotional and mental loops that keep us stuck in the past. Instead, it teaches us to look straight ahead and leap directly into happiness. And this renewed life force that then flows freely into the mind, that is what fuels the mind with the energy, and that is what we call the art of life. And in this way, we can understand the phrase that Hashem created the world very good, because a healthy, vital, and alive, regenerating world is a wonderful world and a great world, and a world that lives up to the title very good. And if you really want to meditate on this, Yoel is a big advocate of going to the forest and meditating in the forest. If you go into the forest and meditate on the fact that everything you see is regenerated. In other words, things have a life cycle, die and then regenerated again, and that's that's what's so good about this world, is the fact that we can regenerate ourselves and the world around us. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay, so let's move ahead. If I was to ask you, we said that this is about the art of life. So let's talk a little bit about art. As I said, we have an art piece here behind me. If I was to ask you, how would you define art? What would you say? What would you think art is? An expression.
Expression of emotion.
Expression of emotion.
A way of looking at the physical world from a non-linear perspective.
Creative.
Creative.
Imaginative. Yes?
Beyond
Especially,
words.
sorry?
Beyond words.
Beyond words, exactly. It's beyond words. I mean, words is very powerful. It's what we use to differentiate us from animals and other creations. But this is beyond words. It's
Between
like,
words.
what?
Between words.
Between words even. Beautiful. That's what music is. The music is the sound between the notes.
Right.
Yeah, it's indeed between the words. I want to give you a definition of art that is absolutely breakthrough in terms of its impact. At least it was for me when I read this. Art is the ability to innovate. We talk about creativity, and the Zohar states that the act of art means to bring something out of potential into reality. That is art. Bringing something from potential to actual. And we're finding an artistic expression. If we find an artistic expression in what we do, it's a difference between simply going through life versus actually living it. Living it, in other words, making an effect on it, having a decisive effect on your life, which is what we all want to do. And bringing out the deepest layer of our soul, living our lives according to our truth and our good-heartedness. I feel that so much of our free will decisions on life have been delegated to people of authority, whether they're medical people of authority, or lawyers, or psychotherapists, or governmental bodies. We have been encouraged to release too much of our free will choices to them. And then we become a victim because we're no longer in control of our own lives. So this book, if I was to summarize it in one word, that's why we did the phrase, reclaim your life. It's about taking ownership on your life and deciding what is right for you. Because you, guess what? You are the one that knows best what is best for you.
What we buy is decided for us, what we like, how we feel, how we compare ourselves to other people,
Right.
through marketing, through entertainment, how we spend our time.
Exactly. So that's the invitation. Now I want to give you another profound key to this, and that is this. If I was to ask you, which human power would most allow us to live our lives as an artist of our own lives, in other words, in control of our own lives, which human power would you say would give us the biggest ability to live our lives according to what we want?
Spiritual power. My spiritual power.
It is a kind of spiritual power, yeah.
Okay.
Any other ideas? What force do you have within you, each of us have, that has the most effect on our lives? What is the word? Introspection. Introspection. Okay, I would go along with some of that. Yeah. Anything else? Emotions. Okay, let me tell you what Rabbi Nachman said of Breslev. He said, he's, by the way, who is called the physician of the mind and the master of the mind. He revealed it to us that the power to heal is in the power of speech. The power to heal is within the power of speech. And that is what will bring relief to any of our suffering. We'll discuss in detail how that works. But basically, human actions depend on thoughts. After all, the end of the deed was begun with thoughts. There's an expression, Sof Maaseh Machshavati Tehila, right? So you might have thought that the biggest strength that we have is the thinking strength, the mind. And yet, Rav Nachman is saying that the speech is what can control the mind. It's kind of almost counterintuitively. You would have thought the way things happen, you have a thought, you have a thought, then you have a speech, and then from speech you have into action. But he's suggesting that in order to control your thoughts, your speech can actually control your thoughts, which then trickle down onto speech and then actions. Okay? So living a lively and happy speech brings enormous powers to the nefesh, to the mind, because you can direct and focus the mind through speech. And this is a wonderful art and brings a person to success and flourish in all aspects of lives. So that's to give you in a nutshell what we're trying to do. But let's talk about some of the blockages that we encounter. What are the typical blockages that you come across that stop you from becoming the best version of you, that you are? Can you give me some examples?
Expectations.
Expectations.
Expectations that from the outside.
Yeah.
Mostly from the outside, that cultural and things that I grew up with, that expect a certain behavior, a certain path, a certain way to interact with the world.
I would agree with that. I mean, if I could put it into a bracket of everything, it's the thing I hear most of all. It's out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
It's certain circumstances. I was put in this situation. It's not my fault. I was put in that situation. I was born with this problem. I was born with this issue. I've got to live with it. And one of the most incredible, powerful lessons that we learned through Yoel, actually it's in this book in Bereshit, in the story of Jacob, is Jacob. I mean, if you look at Jacob, he was unfortunately born second. Now, if you know anything about the Bechor is the firstborn. Firstborn gets twice the amount of all the other siblings, and he gets the right to serve in the temple, as it were. So, Esav is firstborn. Yaakov is secondborn. You would have thought that's end of the game. What else can Jacob do? And yet, he waits patiently for the moment that he can take hold of that Bechor. In other words, what we're saying here is that there is no such situation as a given situation that is totally out of your control. Every situation and every reality can be changed with two things: the power of faith and the connection to the Creator. These two factors are so strong that they can change the law of nature. So what we're saying is that yes, there is a law of nature. Yes, there are situations and situations that you've been put into. But we have, through our human strengths, the ability, by connecting with Hashem, with Emunah, and through the power of prayer and through the power of these techniques that we're going to teach you here, you'll be able to manifest into your life the things that you want. And so we come to the conclusion that any negative interpretation of life is therefore distorted, and challenges the divine determination that everything is very good. And whoever managed to understand this and internalize it, and to live this concept within their lives, will find that their lives will change completely, and this is the intention of the book. Okay, and then the chapters are basically structured in a way that they flow from one to the other, and as I said before, we'll be doing one chapter a week, and the format is that we'll be learning it, and then you'll have access on the internet to the notes. And Moshe is working with me on that. The notes, you'll have also the video, so you can replay the video. You'll also have a series of questions, of exercises to do at home. And then you'll have a summary of the class and some practice to internalize it into your life during that week. And then we'll typically meet again on Wednesday and share together as a group what we've learned from doing these exercises. What I want to say is that nothing in the book is an incredible aha moment like the world is solved from it. They're all very sensible, understandable ideas. And the real trick of this is to internalize it into our lives so we actually live it. And that comes through doing the exercises. So I'm encouraging you to do the exercises. And so are there any questions so far?
I have a few.
Yeah.
Where do we access all the videos and the worksheets?
Excellent question. Moshe is working on producing that. We've done a draft of it, and we're going to finalize it, and then as soon as we finalize it, we're going to send it to you so you as a link, then you can access it and have it as a permanent record that you can refer back to. You know, if you want to remember what happened a couple of weeks ago, you've got access to that as well.
Another question.
Please.
Once we finish in 4 months, right? Are we going to have access to these worksheets that we can give to clients?
Yes. You will have access to the worksheets, and not only that, at the end of the course, we'll be teaching you how to teach it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be teaching you techniques in terms of business techniques, so marketing, how to market yourself, which markets you're going to go for, and how to invite people to come in and join you, and also how to deliver the material in a way that can be received. I would say that this is so much in need. I'll give you an example. This material, the book, the Gesher, has been given over in this video format in Russian and in Hebrew already. And the response has been amazing. Thousands of people viewing it, and many people requesting follow-up help and consultation to help them internalize it into their lives. So we can see from that it's very, very needed today, and we desperately need to get teachers trained up to be able to give over this material so it can be shared with the world.
So students will reach out to the board, right, and then it would be distributed to the right person.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
And can people who reach out, would it be the choice of that coach, right? Can he include other things to teach as well on top of the bridge?
Yes, I mean each coach will have its own style. In other words, you have, for example, you look at the painting behind me. It's an abstract painting, but you can see the colors, you can see the form. But when I meditate on it, I will see different structures than you, mm-hmm. and you can bring out different aspects depending on your experience in life, mm-hmm. and the people you're trying to connect with. For example, Moshe is going to hopefully connect with a young teenage market. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be looking at examples and cases which are relevant to them. Mm-hmm. So each coach will direct it in the way that they feel. Whether you can bring other material into it, we have to try to keep as close to the original material as possible, mm-hmm. because the material, this has taken us like nearly 7 years to get, and I can't believe how many times they re-edited it. And the reason they did it is that it has to follow a certain path in order to register it with because it's written for the layperson. Mm-hmm. So in order to make it understandable and to sink in, it's written in a certain path. So I want to keep as close to that path as possible, so that the formula is proven, mm-hmm. and so I want to stay close to that as possible. But certainly you'll have an opportunity to bring your own color and exposure and tints to the material.
Mm-hmm. One more question.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about we're going to learn manifesting. How is that through what you were talking about? Every reality can be changed through power.
Yes.
Faith,
Yes. I mean, you if I want to be a bit cruder, like there was the book called The Secret, right? That everybody was going crazy about many years ago. This is effectively trying to tap into the Jewish Kabbalistic and Hasidic background onto which The Secret was based, if you like. And this material that I'm quoting to you is hundreds of years old, much older than The Secret was.
The Secret wasn't Jewish, right?
No, it wasn't Jewish, but its success was profound, mm-hmm. And it was very much in this genre of manifesting what you want to create in your life.
Is that what essentially the Sefer is? Is how to manifest what you want?
I think I would say is I wouldn't put it like that. I would put it like this: that if you come to life with this philosophy, mm-hmm. then you'll be able to live life in a state of joy and good health. Because everything makes sense then. Everything fits. There's no conflict anymore between what you want and what you have. That's the ideal.
Okay.
So whether that's because you manifested everything you wanted, or because you managed to adjust what you want, it is to be defined. But basically the ultimate goal is that you're in peace with the internal conflicts of a human being, which full of conflict. You'll see body and soul, my left, right brain, they're all full of set up structures of conflict. And one of the tasks that we have is to refine ourselves so we can integrate both sides, because they're both relevant, and you'll see how we show that they're both relevant and needed, but they're needed in balance. And so what this book is showing us how to live that in balance. And as a result, the result of that is that you have peace. Okay?
One more question.
Yeah, please.
Are you able to give us an example of what homework assignment would be, like what
Yes.
that looks like?
Yes. I'll give you well, let me tell you the homework assignments for this week.
Okay.
That'll be a good start. So this is the updated homework assignment. Question number 1. Write down 10 things you're grateful for. By the way, this is the beginning of the real assignment, which is to write down 100 things you're grateful for. But it's so hard to think of 100 things. Think of 100 things that you're grateful for. It's very hard. So let's start with 10. And every time we'll build it up. That's the first thing. The second thing is to take a walk and find either 10 people, 10 places, or 10 things that you're grateful for.
In the walk.
In the walk. In the walk. So it's part of your daily life. The third thing is go to the forest or nature and meditate on how everything you see is regenerated. The fourth thing is go to the forest and have a conversation with God. Start with thanking Him for the things that you're grateful for, and then explain to Him what's bothering you, as if you're talking to a friend, and then ask Him to help you to solve that. And that could be an exercise for a minute or 30 minutes, and each time you'll see that you'll get better at it, and you can go straight into it more quickly, and also it doesn't feel so awkward, because it's a bit funny at the beginning when you're just talking to God without Him being in front of you, as it were.
What's the goal, though?
The goal is to start to communicate with God. I mean,
Meaning, physical goal. What am I looking at?
Oh, what are you in terms of this?
Conversation.
The goal of the conversation. The goal in terms of time.
Yeah.
Each person depends on themselves. I mean, that's why we put a range. Hitbodedut by Breslev is an hour. That's a long time for someone who's not done that before, I can tell you. I mean, when I first tried to do this, after 5 minutes, I didn't have anything more to say. I mean, it was hard for me. It was hard for me to have a conversation which is, it seems like a one-way conversation. It's not, because the mere releasing of what's in your heart itself is healing, apart from anything else. But secondly, you'll see, like in the painting, you'll see, I'll give you this as a mashal. When you look at an abstract painting, it doesn't tell you what to imagine, but your mind picks up different colors and different images and creates an image, a pattern, and that is the message to you. And it's the same thing that what you're trying to do when you go to nature and speaking to Hashem is to do the same thing, is that you'll be saying these things and you'll be asking for a sign, and all of a sudden you'll get the sign through a bird singing or a cow going, you'll see something that for you is a sign. And that's Hashem talking to you. I mean, Boaz has many examples of that as he walks. So that's really the objective, is to develop our sense of communication and listening and noticing things that are not always noticeable. And that's, by the way, what, you know, working on the Alshech is also helpful, because you're looking at a text and saying, what's unusual here? So it's training us to look at life and say, what's unusual here? This is not usual, so there must be a message in there for me. What's the message? So developing that skill to identify and then to interpret it. And that's why we all need a mentor to help us, because it's not a black and white thing. It's a thing that takes time to develop.
I have to go, but I have a quick request.
Sure.
Is it possible to WhatsApp me or everyone, if it would help them to the homework assignment?
Yes, we're going to do that.
Okay.
We're going to do that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And let's have a great time while we're doing it.
Thank you for your questions.
The third thing, the last thing?
No, that's the fourth. It was the third.
Oh yeah, the third thing was go to the forest and meditate on how everything is regenerated.
Shlomo, thank you.
Pleasure.
I wasn't late, by the way. I was downstairs at 12:55. I didn't know there was an upstairs.
It's upstairs.
And then as I was about to leave, I saw stairs going up.
Oh.
I wonder if he's up there. So,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.